Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. Yesterday we had moisture coming in from the northwest with that batch of clouds rolling in the northwest interior down across St. Lawrence Island back to the west, and some cloudiness over here over the eastern interior, but high pressure and dry conditions continuing over the southern part of the state from Bristol Bay right up into the interior valleys. And we had some moisture down here that's beginning to spread some clouds up into the southern southeast coast. And eventually a little bit of rain came up with that, but the majority of it stayed to the south, and a bigger system out here to the west pushing into the Aleutians. See, today that system has quite a bit of cloudiness with it. The main low right back out in here. One frontal boundary right through here, bringing some light rain at times into Alaska this afternoon. Also kicking the winds up along the Alaska Peninsula, Falls passing gusts in the 30 to 35 mile per hour range. Even some light rain and drizzle at times, but nothing too heavy up over the Pribilof Islands there. But you can see lots of clouds all the way up through the Bering Strait and across the Chukchi Sea here, across all of the Bering Sea. Otherwise, clouds pushed east of Kodiak Island, allowed for some pretty good sunshine today across the island itself and back in toward Bristol Bay. And this front, having pushed all the way to the eastern border, brought snow across the north slope in the Brooks Range, and even some measurable rainfall. Bettles picked up about 0.07 of an inch of rain in the last 24 hours. And you can see it was pretty wound up there, so they may have had several inches of snow on the north slopes of the Brooks Range. On back to the Arctic coast, Barter Island reporting, or Kaktovik, about 1 mile to 1.5 miles in snow at times, 1 to 2 miles in light snow. Most of the day today, tapering off back to the west, but still a lot of low cloudiness here and some flurries continuing all the way out to Kivalina, seeing some IFR conditions at times, gradually improving a little bit there, but not a whole lot, kind of a weak low persisting in that area. Otherwise, lots of sunshine, temperatures into the 60s there over the southeast coast, but this area of clouds associated with a weak occluded front here brought some rain into Annette, Ketchikan, and Klawock. One of the heavier amounts was about 0.2 of an inch down at Annette, or Annette had 1/10 of an inch, and somewhere else had 0.2 of an inch down there, but it was all restricted to the south. Lots of sunshine up to the north, and this is the front mainly down over the Queen Charlotte's there responsible for that rainfall. Areas of smoke again, southwest winds 15 to 30 miles an hour up Cook Inlet, south and southwesterlies. Again today, much like yesterday, and some areas didn't even drop off much last evening. Other areas up to the north did. And anyway, that wind came back up this afternoon, starting to pick up some low clouds in the inlet farther down to the southwest. Some of this moisture here having worked up into the area. And you can see the clear skies there over Kodiak Island. Lots of clouds out over the Bering Sea with some light precipitation, especially along this frontal boundary here. Pushing a little bit of light rain through the central Tanana Valley off to the east and the border. Some local isolated showers here along the mountains, and then that weak low back up to the northwest. And this roughly the position of that frontal system pushing eastward, beginning to push the rain a little bit now into the eastern Aleutians, and kind of a showery, unsettled, breezy condition back to the west. Now to last through tonight out there over the Aleutians. Main front now up, coming close, say about 3 a.m., 4 a.m. tomorrow near Cold Bay, or about Cold Bay, Falls Pass in those areas, but should be past the Unalaska area. So look for a little more steadier continuous rain with fog there for the Pribilof Islands, and some of that moisture will spread up towards St. Lawrence Island and sort of link up. We'll have clouds again all the way up to the north and along this frontal boundary here. That low really not pulling away too much. Actually, the parent low slipping off to the northeast there behind the label, or just above it. And then this one will be sort of a stationary feature and actually begin to drift southward here over the next couple of days. That one system moves through, and higher pressure tonight builds up out here and then shifts eastward. And so look for smoke to continue again tonight from any of the fires going on here over south central Alaska. Isolated scattered showers, Copper River Basin, again mostly over the mountainous terrain, Wrangell Mountains up to the Alaska Range. Fair, clear skies here over the Panhandle. Still a chance of some showers down to the south, and then patchy areas of fog also along the southwest coast. Then tomorrow this system will make a good push to the northeast with a fairly decent southwesterly jet. High pressure moves through, but it'll keep conditions dry. But look for an increase in the low clouds here across Cook Inlet, and to a lesser extent for Prince William Sound. Should stay fair on the east side of Kodiak Island, at least VFR to start the day out with, but all this moisture streaming northeastward. Look for rain to make it onto the southwest coast, possibly as early as tomorrow morning or as late as tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening. Definitely rain will push up to the coastline, could start as early as tomorrow morning, and if it does, of course, it'll be a little farther than this inland by, say, 3 or 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, but definitely cloudy, increasing chances of rain, especially in the afternoon. I'd just say it'd be rain likely to just flat out rain. Wet conditions and breezy here across the Alaska Peninsula. Winds ahead of this front could peak up to about 40-45 miles an hour tonight, and then turn more southwesterly and drop off a little bit. Some scattered showers and continued breezy and unsettled out over the Aleutians, and clouds will cover just about all of the Bering Sea once again, right up into the Chukchi Sea. And still look for a little light snow here. This high coming in from the northwest probably will dry it out along the central Arctic coast and push this low a little bit farther to the south, but I don't think anything significant will get south of the Brooks Range there. It'll all be along and north into the North Slope. Then for Tuesday, looks like some rain will finally make it into south central Alaska, kind of a widespread area of light rain here from the coastal areas right up into the Madanuska, Susitna valleys, and then back to the northwest in across the Kobuk Valley and Kotzebue Sound. So look for rain by Tuesday morning, probably continuing throughout most of the day on Tuesday. And another front will bring even more rain back into the Bristol Bay area. It'll keep it wet here over the Alaska Peninsula, right up across the southwest coast and into Norton Sound. So a foggy, wet day for Nome, Golovin, those areas, Tin City, where it usually is, all the way back down across St. Lawrence Island. And that trough extends down to another developing system here just north of Adak. Otherwise, we'll have high pressure in advance of that front up over the eastern Gulf of Alaska, and that'll make for a fair day once again with some partly to mostly sunny skies. For the southeast coast, most of these showers will be off into Canada now, but pretty brisk northwest winds, anywhere from 15 to 25, maybe even 30 miles an hour out along the coast, a little more variable on the speeds, even over the inside waters, but the direction should be pretty uniform, west to northwest or just northwest, except for Lynn Canal, south to north gradient there. Those winds probably kicking up to 25, 30 knots in the afternoon. And also ahead of this front, look for those winds in the Copper River to pick up, well, as early as tomorrow afternoon, picking up to 35 miles an hour, right along the Copper River Valley there, lighter elsewhere. And then again, that same pattern will occur on Tuesday. Temperatures this afternoon, 50s to mid 60s here across the Panhandle, 64 occurring both at Port Alexander and Sitka. Juneau, the warm spot in the state, along with Hoonah, 65 degrees, 60 at Skagway, 53 at Yakutat, and a 52 over both Valdez and Cordova. 61 at Palmer, just 52 at Anchorage though, a little cool with the winds coming off the inlet, 54 at Homer. Same thing at Kodiak, 56 at Akiak, and a 52 up here at Talkeetna. Up in the Tanana Valley, you can see temperatures range from 61 there at Northway, where they were down late this morning, as low as 4 miles in smoke there. It's come up a little better this afternoon. That coming in on those brisk southwest winds as high as 25 miles an hour there. 55 in Fairbanks and 52 up at Fort Yukon, 44 at Battles with 37 at Anativik, 46 at Arctic Village, and in the 20s along the Arctic coast, high 20s there at Kaktovik with 28, 23 over at Dead Horse, 24 at Barrow, upper 20s again on the west side, mid 30s here along the coast for the Kotzebue Sound area, but 41 at Buckland, 35 at Nome, 36 at Savunga out there, and mostly in the 40s here across the southwest and Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta areas, 54 at McGrath, 50 over at Sleepmute, and a 45 at Bethel. Out in the Pacific, or out in the Bering Sea here, the Pribilofs, 42 at St. Paul, and a little warmer there at St. George, upper 40s on Alaska, False Pass. Cold Bay came in at 51. And again, the lower 40s out towards Shemya. Otherwise, the Alaska Peninsula, sunniest on the south side. That's where you saw the warmest conditions. For the lows tonight, teens and lower 20s here for the Arctic coast and North Slope areas, and then 30s to lower 40s everywhere else, to just 40s here over south central Alaska, 40 to 45. Upper 30s, mid to upper 30s there over the eastern Tanana Valley areas into the Copper River Basin, and mostly in the 40 to 48 degree range for the southeast coast, lower 40s to mid 30s there for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Then the highs back into the 60s here for the Panhandle tomorrow, maybe as high as 65, 6 or 7 degrees in some areas. Mid 50s here along the coast, but south central Alaska again, lower to mid 60s once again there, back up to 60 near Kodiak, and upper 50s, mid to upper 50s here for the southwest coast. And again, a lot of rain will be moving in, especially tomorrow afternoon in this area, and mid 20s to near 40 there for the North Slope on down to the Brooks Range. Flying weather, lots of IFR will be moving northeastward toward the coast throughout the day tomorrow and be right up into the Bering Strait. Marginal VFR for the North Slope back to the western Arctic coast, and then IFR also sliding right up into Kodiak Island, reaching at least the southwest coast by mid to late morning, and then areas of marginal VFR or IFR covering much of the Aleutians and the Bering Sea. And a lot of marginal conditions also here, but staying near or off the coast all the way around. Look for some marginal VFR due to a mixture of low stratocumulus that's slipping up the inlet along with the smoke. And for passes, Anativik, marginal VFR, but better conditions to the south. Adigan, marginal on the north side, into the pass, VFR to the south. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR in either approach. Tomorrow's will be rainy, windy, looking really good. Isabel, VFR, and Mintasta, VFR. Tanita should be VFR. Portage could be marginal at times with a little smoke mixed in. That'd be mostly on the western entrance. I think on the east side it'll stay VFR with increasing westerly wind components. And for Chilkoot and White, both VFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet here over the northern Bering Sea with some cooler air aloft there. And then along the trough axis, southwest winds here parallel to these freezing level lines, 6,000 to 8,000 feet here, the warmest conditions again over the Yukon, and icing threats with the incoming front and the system and moisture. Look for a batch to roll into the Bristol Bay area and the southwest coast throughout the day tomorrow, and then progressing northeastward tomorrow night and into Tuesday. And this leftover stuff up here to the north. Upper level wind flow chart showing this high pressure will be moving through. We have a split right here in the jet stream, 120 knots, but that whole pattern will be shifting eastward over the next couple of days, and that'll push all that moisture right in tomorrow night and especially on Tuesday. But tomorrow, the southwest coast will get hit first, and of course the Alaska Peninsula this evening. 9,000 foot winds, southwesterlies, pretty much just about everywhere. A little more westerly up here over the interior and more variable over the Panhandle. Light and variable even at 3,000 feet in this area. Southwest 25 to 30 knots up to 40 knots there just west of Nikolsky, and lighter winds up over the northern portions of the state. Turbulence-wise, moderate chop coming in Nunivak Island right along the coast, mostly to Cape Newenham down along the peninsula, on back out to the west, and that includes Dutch Harbor, Unalaska, and Nikolsky, all the way out to Atka. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Deep water moves at a different rate of speed than shallow water. Different depth levels on the same river can change its characteristics, presenting a dangerous situation to the less experienced rafter.
This is what not to do when you fall out of the raft. Never.
To provide for the safest trip, utilize the services of professional whitewater rafting guides who are experienced and understand the characteristics and dynamics of a river. Depending on the river conditions, professional guides will make adjustments in the size of rafts and even the number of people in a raft to ensure your adventure is a safe one. Before venturing on rivers, whitewater enthusiasts should always listen to local National Weather Service broadcasts over NOAA Weather Radio to hear the latest river conditions and weather forecasts. The solitude of an inner world. The allure of exploring wondrous places where few people have ventured. The appreciation of geological formations, and even the fluttering of bats add to the mystique of caving and attract many enthusiasts. But caving has its own inherent risks. Although caves would seem to be far removed from rain and rivers, water hazards do exist here. Most caves are damp or wet, and many have active streams. But even dry caves can flood from rains, and not necessarily from heavy downpours. An all-day drizzle can raise water to dangerous levels, first saturating the ground, and then permeating down between the layers of rock, flooding a cavern with water. Other caves have outside streams, which even under normal weather conditions go directly into a cave. Rising water from rain can flood a cave within minutes. If the stream drains a large area outside, localized thunderstorms that are miles away from the cave can cause it to flood, creating an underground tomb for the unfortunate people trapped inside. Here are some things to remember about caving. Water levels can be low in some sections and high in others. Water levels can rise very fast, but be very slow to recede. There can be a long delay between the time it rains and the time it actually floods. In caves where you go through crawlways or spots with little airspace, it doesn't take much water to cut off your exit. Careful attention must be given to the weather conditions prior to entering the cave. Listen to NOAA Weather Radio before entering a cave. In a lot of situations, when rain or thunderstorms are in the forecast, the safest thing to do is just stay away. Know your caves. Know which caves are subject to flooding and which are not. To avoid drowning, hypothermia, or injury, safety must always come first. With some precaution, cavers can expect a safe adventure. Urban areas have their own flash flood problems. Open storm drains, culverts, and drainage ditches are man-made arroyos and concrete canyons. Found in nearly every community and normally dry throughout the year, storm drains are attractive places for children to play. These seemingly benign ravines are designed to quickly move runoff from excessive rain and rapidly melting snow away from a community. Since this process fills the ravine with water, often with little warning, storm drains and culverts are potentially hazardous areas and no place for children. Sometimes the pull from the fast-moving water is so great, you could easily be pulled into a storm drain.
They were playing in the water, and all of a sudden he disappeared in the sewer.
Just got sucked in.
Just got sucked in. He just disappeared. Was gone. He was there and then gone.
To add to the problem, The increased number of paved streets and parking lots found in sprawling communities do not allow water to soak into the ground. This contributes to rapid urban runoff and storm drain flooding. On a typical city block, impervious surfaces such as pavement and rooftops generate 9 times more runoff than a woodland area of the same size. Don't take chances. Keep yourself and your children away from storm drains. Here's a quick summary to help you remember the main points. Canyons can funnel large amounts of floodwater from great distances with no warning to the unwary hiker. A dry arroyo can quickly become a raging river. River conditions change. When whitewater rafting, know your river. Experience counts. Be knowledgeable of current weather conditions before you enter a cave. Don't allow your children to play in or near storm drains. They can be pulled in and swept away by swift-moving water. Stay informed about current river and weather conditions by listening to NOAA Weather Radio, commercial radio, and television. Keep in mind that should you need to be rescued, you are also placing someone else's life in danger. Respect the power of moving water.
Welcome back. Northwest winds here up to 20 knots out along the coast. A little more west-northwest or variable 5 to 15 knots over the inside waters. Then for Tuesday, look for these winds up here, especially upland canal to pick up to 25 knots with some higher gusts in the afternoon hours. Otherwise, northwesterlies 10 to 15 knots over the inside waters. A little brisker here on the central and south coast. Could be looking at some small craft advisories there, but lighter and more westerly back up to the north. For the Gulf of Alaska, western Gulf, or the western North Gulf Coast, from Prince William Sound all the way down to Kodiak, southwesterly winds, including Shelikof Strait. Small craft advisories for these areas tomorrow, all around Kodiak Island, except for the Barrens, and then in toward Kamishak Bay. But about the same situation for Cook Inlet, south-southwest, 20 to 25 at times through tomorrow. And then that'll drop off, become a little more southerly here on Tuesday in the 15 to 20 knot range, but southeast winds in the late afternoon into the evening could kick up to 25 knots for the northern inlet with even higher gusts coming out of Turnagain Arm. Otherwise, lighter winds from a south-southeasterly direction here from Prince William Sound, where they'll mostly be south at about 15, southwesterlies 20, but still up to 25 knots at times for Shelikof Strait. And for Bristol Bay, southeast winds 15 tomorrow, southwest of Kodiak, looking at 20 knot winds mostly from the south, and southwesterlies 15 to 20 knots to the Alaska Peninsula. On Tuesday, about the same sort of pattern here for the peninsula, 15 to 20 knot winds, and looks like southerlies will kick up to 20 knots there for Bristol Bay. Now the Aleutians, still pretty light winds here in the bottom of that trough with the least gradient at about 15, coming back up to 20 knots for the Shimiatu area. Otherwise, southwest winds 20 to maybe 25 knots at times here for the remainder of the central and eastern Aleutians, with those seas running at about 7 to 10 feet. And then on Tuesday, again, the lightest winds right through here, and now even 15 knots across Dadak and Atka. So laying down a little bit for Tuesday from what they'll be tomorrow. Still 20-knot northwesterlies back out over the far western zone, and southwest winds roughly 20 knots, give or take. Seas at about 7 feet there for the entire length of the Fox Island marine zones. For the Pribilofs, south 15 tomorrow. Along the coast here, southeasterlies, looks like they'll be strongest. Nunivak Island down to Cape Newenham at about 20. Lighter winds and becoming southerly, and laid down pretty good there for St. Lawrence Island. Kind of easterly here for St. Matthew Island, but light easterlies. And then those will become northwest in the afternoon out in this area at about 15. So kind of a weak low center right in through here. And south, 20 knots here for the coast, and southeast 15 for St. Lawrence Island. Southwesterlies 15 for the Pribilofs. Up along the Arctic coast, light variable winds on the east side, becoming northeast at about 10. Then you pick it up to about 15 knots on the west side, but really laid down here in this zone from Point Hope down to Tin City. Then those will become a little more easterly, but still at about 5 knots here, or 5 to 10 knots. Look for 20-knot winds there coming around the capes on the west side, then dropping back just about north or north-northeast, or northeast, the entire stretch of the coastline there at 10 knots from the central coast all the way over to Demarcation Point. And for tonight, still some flurries and foggy conditions going on up there over the eastern Arctic coast. Then areas of that will extend all the way back to the Bering Strait. This front will spread moisture and the gusty winds up along the Alaska Peninsula. Areas of low clouds and fog developing or thickening up along the southwest coast. And these shower threats will hang in over the southern panhandle yet tonight. And then tomorrow, rain up into the southwest coast, definitely into Bethel by this time tomorrow, and spreading into Bristol Bay to Kodiak Island as well. And then into south central Alaska, back to the northwest on Tuesday. Well, have a great weekend, and thanks for joining us.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.